Well, it appears the new trailer has a lot fewer miles on it than mine does. So I'm thinking the play is to swap out the whole axle and spring assembly. So I was just over here doing what one would normally do before they bought something as opposed to after. I'm just taking some measurements, and our axle is the same width or length, however you want to look at it. The springs are the same dimensionally. The pin diameter seems to be the same. The hangers or spring hangers seem to be the same. The hub's a little bit different. This is a newer trailer than what I've been working with, but I think I can make everything work. The biggest difference I found was that the spring hanger on my trailer is about 1.5 inches forward from this rear one. The front one's in the same spot. So you'll see that this linkage here is almost vertical, whereas on mine it's cocked back. It's about 7 o'clock position, I guess you'd call that. Shouldn't be a problem. I think the springs themselves are the same. So I'm going to come over here to the defective side first, get something under that axle, and try to drive these pins out. Well, that went a good bit easier than I thought. So now the fun part begins. I got to get this thing out from under here. So I think what I'm going to do is drop it down to get clear of the hangers, and then I'm going to do that by putting a jack on either side, get rid of the jack stands, lay it down as low as it'll go, pull the jacks out from under it, and then tie up to it with a forklift, kind of drag it around this way and drag it out on these. Unfortunately, this one doesn't have the drums on it like my new one, so it won't roll. This is just going to dig in. We're going to disturb a lot of asbestos here, so if that offends you, turn the channel now. But yeah, so the reason I can't just put the wheels on it and clock it and roll it out is because those are the wheels, and they're 10/120s. So when they're all mounted up, it's about yay high. I'd have to raise that trailer significantly higher. I don't really have a way to do that. So All right, so far so good. Now I just need to pull this axle, and it's unfortunate, but I'm not going to be able to rig up the parking brake. My tanker here, they actually had cut the cross members out and replaced them with angle iron, which is kind of sketchy. So there's really no they did that so that frame would cradle that tank, and then of course they put this conveyor belt material there to protect the tank, but there's no provisions for me to set up a parking brake system absent some fabrication that I don't really have time for. And I have wheel chocks, so it's not that big of a deal. But in the event that I wanted to do something in the future, what I'd like to do is save the parts instead of just cutting the cables. So I'm going to try to save them and do it that way. If this doesn't work out, I've got a plan B, and I happen to also have a plan C and a plan D. So one way or another, my tanker's getting done. But I think one of the reasons I was looking at this, one of the reasons I think there's some rust issues here is this abominable military paint. It's so thick and it just flakes off. Well, that holds moisture under there. And so when that gets chipped, moisture gets introduced, and I think that's why we have all this mess going on. But I don't know, we're fixing to put it under there and it'll wear through, I guess. I don't know what's going to happen, but like I said, I've got a plan B, C, and D, so one way or the other, this is getting done. Just doing a little prep work before I slide it back up in there. So went ahead and wire brushed the inside because it's going to be difficult to do once it's in there, just to help prep for paint. What I noticed on this thing, so this paint is some kind of, I guess some kind of epoxy paint. It's abominable. And what's curious about it, I mean, man, this stuff is so thick. It's almost like they just dipped the whole trailer. It's almost like they just dipped the whole trailer in this crap. So what has happened, that steel has begun to rust up underneath that thick, and this is after I run a brush over it. It is just awful, whatever this crap is. But so unfortunately what has happened to my dang springs, they have rusted in between there. That rust has caused the springs to expand, because the leaves to expand because they got rust in between them. So that's what's giving it this swelled out situation here. And so I don't know if that means they're going to break or what. That's very unfortunate, but I'm in it too far to turn back. So what I've done is I've cleaned out the pin bushings in the spring eyes, and they look consistent with a fairly low miles trailer. And I'm about to grease them up, and took my pins in there and wire brushed them. All I've got on hand here is high temp disc brake wheel bearing grease, but it'll work. It's a number 2. It'll work just fine. It's an EP grease. EP stands for extreme pressure. So yeah, I'm gonna get that prepped, and gonna try to get creative and slide that thing in there. Now that went about as good as I could hope for. Alignment is key, because this is a machine fit, and everything, it's got to be aligned this way, that way, which is difficult to do. This thing's heavy, and I could only pick it up from one end. So what I did on the other side, I employed a floor jack. I had that floor jack under the hub, so I could move it around on this side, raise it up, lower it while I was trying to get that side. I got that pin in. This one is not wanting to cooperate. It's almost there, but not quite. So what I think I'm going to do is take that ratchet strap, wrap it around that axle, and anchor back there, and just see if I can't pull that axle back a little bit to get that lined up. I had to drop it in the grass. Excellent. All right, boys, she's in there. That went about as easy as I could have expected it to. I've done some leaf spring work, years ago, and sometimes I can really fight you, but this one turned out to be fairly easy. So all I've got left, put my pinch bolts in. I got to replace a stud right there, and I think that's going to be it for the mechanical on this thing. I'd love to stay and hang out, but I've got a social commitment, so I'm going to wrap it up for today. But when we reconvene, we're going to strip this thing down and get it ready for paint.